the time has come that we will begin with the fireside chat. The topic is the digital transformation and its profound impact on our everyday lives. The speakers are, all of you please put your hands together for Mr. Rohit, the Vice President of Amdocs. Yes, thank you very much. And next we have Amrit Kaur, the co-founder and CEO of Mantra Verse. Can we have Amrit Kaur? Okay. Nice to see you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin with the fireside chat right now. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So we're here to talk to you about the digital transformation and how this impacts our daily lives, and I'm sure all of you have been impacted in some way, shape or form. So I have Rohit alongside me, and we'll sort of go into a little bit about what digital transformation is and how it touches various points in our lives. So we'll start with an introduction. So Rohit, would you like to begin?
Sure. Hi, this is Rohit Papersania. I work for Amdocs. We are the #1 telecom products company in the world. We do all the BSS, billing, OSS, and various other products for doing actually the digital transformation of our telecom clients. It's estimated that we touch upon the lives of nearly 3.1 billion people through our products.
Great, thank you. So a little bit of background about myself. I've been in the tech industry for over 20 years. Got into it by mistake, wasn't planned, but haven't left since. So I have worked for digital transformation projects in government in the UK. I then moved into sort of consulting and then worked across various different organisations in public and private sector. Most recently, I've been working in the fintech and banking space, so building digital products in that world. And I also had my own health tech startup. So yeah, working in various different places and now running my own consultancy where we touch on various different industries and digitally transform products and services. So Rohit, would you like to start by giving us a definition of what you think digital transformation means for you?
Sure. So, see, I've been associated with the telecom industry for nearly 17 years now, and I had the big, good fortune of seeing transformation, from pretty much the front seat. Because if you talk about digital transformation, the first big thing that happened was obviously internet, fueled by telecoms. Second big thing happened, smartphone, again fueled by telecoms. And then we kept building on this great foundation. So, before we begin what digital transformation is, maybe I'd like to ask the audience, because whoever I speak to have their own definition, and there's no right or wrong. But I just want to kind of, pick up on your head. What do you think digital transformation means for you? Just, 2 words off the top of your head. Anyone? Yeah, please. Automation, okay.
Transforming from paperwork to digital.
Okay, paperwork to digital, great. Any other? Technological evolution? Yeah. Automation at scale, okay. Okay, so we are getting into this zone where we seem to say, at least the people in this room, those who have spoken, that you take a manual process, you automate it, you take it up to huge scale, and you achieve digital transformation. Kind of, that sums up the thought of the room. So, let me tell you, this is much, much, much more than that. It's not about automation, although it is important. See, again, it's very hard to define what digital transformation actually is. Let me start with an example. See, old days, doctors, everybody used to have a stethoscope, right? They used to monitor your heart rate and all. Now, just a few years ago, we started with all these smartwatches which have the heart rate, built into your, watch, right? That is one level of automation, right? You replaced your analog instrument, which was the stethoscope, with a digital instrument. That is not digital transformation. At least that's my definition. It's digitization or digitalization as some people say. So you have taken up manual process, you have converted, and you achieved your automation, you achieved the scale also. Now, when you try to build upon that, you imagine, millions of people having this smartwatch. The data is getting collected in the cloud. You're applying AI in the right way, not, I'm not talking about the previous panel discussion, in the right way. You are driving insights out of it. You have connected it to an ecosystem. Just for instance, maybe I'm having a heart attack. Okay, the insight is given by the AI because of the data collected. Now, in the ecosystem, there's a hospital as well. They know they need to send an ambulance, and my phone knows where I am. I don't even have to call anyone. Anybody has to detect any symptoms. The call goes in. So those are the kind of things, and when you have achieved this kind of scale, you have created an ecosystem, you have taken the data, you have applied AI to get real insights. That, in my view, is true digital transformation. Okay? So again, just a little bit of history. We talked about internet, we talked about smartphones, and we talked about how various fields and various sectors, starting from Amazons and Googles and who are kind of been leading the digital age. We are now moving to healthcare, we are now moving to education, and the world is expanding. We are just trying to figure out how do you create those ecosystems, how do you co-create. So there is always a consumer, there is always a buyer. There's always a buyer and there's always a seller. The beauty of Amazon was about bringing them together, right? If Amazon were doing it just by themselves, probably that transformation would not have happened because it would have been very, very limited. The success of Amazon is because they brought the buyers and sellers from across the world together. And that is where the true transformation happens, when you get that network effect of several buyers and several sellers and the ecosystem coming together. Okay? So Amrit, let's talk about, I think we have a fair definition of digital transformation to start with. Let's maybe hear from you. How does it impact the daily lives of people like you and me and everyone?
Yeah, so you were talking about health, so I'll start there. Recently I used a continuous glucose monitor which was attached to my arm, and it gave me a reading of my blood sugar levels throughout the day continuously 24/7. And I absolutely loved it, but I was only wearing the sensor for 2 weeks, and now I'm sort of thinking I need to get my next one because I really enjoyed watching what was happening. These kind of things are really impacting and changing the way we do things, the way we understand our bodies. We're starting to really figure out what things are doing to us, which we never had any insight into before. So these kind of transformations, I think, are absolutely brilliant. When my doctor tells me, okay, your sugar levels might be high, I'm thinking, well, it could just be a random reading you've got on that day. I don't know, it could just be an abnormal reading. How do I know that actually I have an issue? And these kind of changes that we're seeing now, a lot of people are wearing these wearables, like we said, you've got smartwatches that monitor everything you're doing, your blood pressure. I've got an ECG monitor on my watch, and I can see what's happening to my readings of my heart rate. So there's a lot of change happening in all industries. So health is definitely one big one. Shopping, there was once upon a time it was all brick and mortar. We had to go to a physical location to do our shopping, and now it's online. In fact, I can do personalized shopping. I can start to understand the kind of things that suit me, and I'll start to get personalized adverts to me. And all of those kind of things are changing the way we do everything from a daily basis. When we look at entertainment, we used to go to the cinema once upon a time, and now we're binge watching on Netflix. So that's changing that world. And then we look at this on a slightly bigger scale, and we've got smart cities. I'm working on a project at the moment where we're looking at actually creating an entire smart town in an emerging country. And that's coming up more and more, so a lot of people are sort of looking more into that. So how can we make our transportation smarter? How can we make sure our development is managed well? How do we make sure that our borders are secure? How do we make digital payments? So in the world of fintech and banking, I can't remember the last time I carried cash around. I don't have the need to do it. I either use my watch to tap to pay for something, or I use my smartphone. So again, all these things are sort of changing the way we do things on a daily basis.
Yeah, so it's kind of touching every walk of life. Everything we do on a day-to-day basis is getting transformed and get touched upon by digital.
Yeah, even like communication. So like, for example, once upon a time, people were sending letters, and now it's like emails and instant messaging. So, even workplace productivity, we're using AI tools, and I think are fantastic because it's saving me a lot of time in the field I'm working in. So, things like ChatGPT, I'm really looking forward to sort of text to video, conversions and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's so many use cases, and I've got so many ideas as a result flying through my head that, I can do this, and I can change the way when startups come and speak to me to help mentor them, and it's just like, well, use these tools, really speed up what you're doing when it comes to marketing, when it comes to your daily tasks that you need to complete, and managing your diary. I can now run multiple businesses at the same time because I've been able to reduce my daily workload as a result of these innovations, and I think they're absolutely great.
So see, I have a concept of human-machine collaboration, and maybe what you touched upon. How do we, delegate these tasks to machines so that as humans we can apply our thoughts to more value-added services, those judgment calls, right?
Yeah.
Which is what it really enables us to do, if I have to sum it up.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of the industry you work in telecoms, like how has that changed, and how is that, or what's happening in the future in that world as well? So with the 5G, 6G, etc., like what kind of changes can we expect to see?
So, see, as part of telecom, they are sitting on a huge amount of data. They are at the front end. The first touch point with everyone is actually your smartphone. That's how you get connected to this digital ecosystem, right? So they are sitting at a very, very good vantage point where they can truly leverage this connection to people, the amount of data they have, who you talk to, where you are, where you go, what booking you are making. They are at the first touch point. So from a telecom perspective, and again, there's a big transformation happening in the industry, especially around 5G. I know, the current version of 5G is not so very exciting. Yes, I mean, you've got faster speeds, but that's about it. But 5G is not fully operational yet. We are at the very beginning of 5G. It's primarily, 5G over LTE, so higher speeds over the existing 4G network is what we are seeing. The true transformation of, or the true, benefits of 5G will be relevant, once we get standalone 5G. And what I mean by standalone 5G is true 5G technology with a lot more virtualization at every step of the way. I don't want to get into too much technical detail, but what it really means to you is, as a consumer of, maybe a retail consumer or even a business, you can get different kind of quality of service for the different use cases you have. And I'll give an example. Suppose you want to watch a sports event. Your smartphone or the streaming device at your home, your TV, can enable you for a multi-view kind of scenario where you can see from different angles how the players are playing and all, and that requires huge amount of bandwidth. So that is one use case where 5G would be able to give much higher bandwidth. Second and very interesting use cases are around the low latency and power efficiency of 5G. So low latency, what it means is that from the point you click a button till the point some action happens, it's ultra fast, less than 1 millisecond, less than 5 milliseconds, compared to the current 30 milliseconds or 40 milliseconds. It can mean life and death when you talk about autonomous cars, when you talk about robotic surgery. From the moment the surgeon touches a button, that has to happen, that action has to happen instantaneously. Or the object is on the road, you can't wait for buffering, right? So I think that ultra low latency and ultra reliability, all those features of 5G will be unlocked once we get to the true standalone 5G. Okay, and that's going to be a game changer because many more use cases will come. True mobility will also come because today when you talk about consumption of data, I think we are limited to our smartphone, which is a small screen. But talk about Vision Pro. It's not 5G enabled yet, But imagine a Vision Pro with ultra low latency, huge bandwidth, kind of a broadband like speed in your Vision Pro, and you can navigate the world with that. Many use cases around factories where you can actually repair and see the instructions online, to smart factories where your sensors and IoTs are giving information right onto your Vision Pro about what is wrong and what can you do to keep your downtime low. So huge amount of new use cases are going to open up.
Great, great. And what kind of economic, social, and cultural changes and implications do you think digital transformation has?
I think that's a very good question. I mean, I don't have to tell you who are the top companies in the world. The companies who have stayed at the digital edge, like Microsoft is the most valued company on earth, Apple, Google, these are the names. They have been transforming the world digitally, and they are the biggest movers and shakers in the industry. So I think it's very clear in terms of where the market is moving, how much potential it has. And see, the most important thing is these companies are touching the lives of the people, like you said, and these companies have unlocked the secret of how to build experiences around people. Because again, another tenet of digital transformation is you can't transform things on your own. Again, ecosystem. Ecosystems means at the end of the day people, and you have to build human-centric experiences around them. And more and more human-centric experiences are coming on. For example, classified tags. We used to have big yellow books. That's where Google found its calling, and it became the #1 search company. Same way, Apple and Netflix. It's a very good example of Blockbuster. They had AI and everything. They might have done the best analytics to find out where to place the stores, but all that is gone once you had streaming. Right? So other thing is the changes which are happening in the way we work. The future of work itself is undergoing a change because of the transformation which has happened, because of the digitalization which has happened. So we can't live without Uber, especially when there are so many conferences going on in a city like Dubai. There are no taxis available. Without Uber, you can't even get here. So Uber, Airbnb. I mean, all these things are kind of changing the way we work. For transactions, we no longer want to call somebody. We want every service in the smartphone, and I think it has become we don't realize it. We take it for granted, but we are so dependent on it.
Yeah, I mean, if my phone battery dies, I feel like I can't do anything. I can't function. So yeah, it is definitely impacting the way we do things. But do you think it has a negative impact in any way? Do you think there are people who are afraid? I mean, I'm in the tech industry and I absolutely love the innovation and everything that's happening. But when I speak to family members, they're very scared and they're not liking the change. What do you think about that?
So we just met a doctor here who was talking about the ethical use of AI and access to data. So the fears are also very real. See, one of the biggest fear I see, and I want we had a very good panel discussion on the negative effects of AI. So let's not go there. But see, as a society, as a culture, I think there's a big change happening. People are so dependent on their smartphone. I mean, you go to a bunch of kids, Gen Zs, sitting next to each other. They will be focused on their smartphone rather than on each other. I think that human touch is the sacrifice we are having to make, and I don't know the answer to that, but maybe coaching, maybe bringing some more value into those interactions, making those interactions intentional. I think as leaders and people who have seen the other world where even the phone did not exist, to the current world where the kids today cannot just imagine a life without smartphone. I think it's our job to educate them as leaders, as parents, as senior citizens, not senior citizens, but seniors. Sorry, but yeah, I think it's part of our job as well, right? And I think because people are seeking validation online, social media. I mean, I no longer care whether my parent likes my achievement, but I have to get those likes on social media. Otherwise, I get agitated, I get irritated, and I've forgotten the value of patience and waiting for things. I am seeking instant gratification. Today I have a problem, go on Amazon, buy, right? Hit the button, buy. What's the big deal? People are forgetting the value of money. They no longer see the money. We have seen the money when we run out of it, especially, but they don't. It's just another digital currency that my daughter keeps talking about, give me the points on Roblox, which I don't. I said no.
Yeah, but even education, when we're talking about the changes and transformation that's happening here, and I think COVID kind of accelerated some of that digital change. So now you've got schools around the world that actually are fully virtual. So you have your virtual teachers, your children are sitting at home, and then you go into the world of healthcare, and you've got doctors sitting in one part of the world helping surgeries happen in another part of the world, and it's all sort of changing the way our daily lives. But in terms of education, how do you think that's impacting the future?
So I'll give my own example. Okay. I mean, we are very busy with our day-to-day job. Education for us has become, literally impossible. Nobody can take a 1 year break and, attend some course. I always wanted to do some, executive program. During COVID, I registered for one. I completed it. It would not have been possible, if we did not have remote education, if we did not have, and believe me, when after 1 year of completing the course, every weekend, a batch of 70 people used to meet, the professors used to meet, and then we had the campus immersion. The last leg of the program, it felt like we knew everybody. Really, I mean, it was amazing that people who had digitally spent time for 1 year, it seemed like we've known each other for a very long time. So that's a power, I think, and it's just the beginning. There are a lot of startups, edutech startups, and Byju's and all in India are going through a tough, rough patch. But I think again the value comes to when you are, the value is when you are best at basics. You are thinking about the end user, their problems, and creating solutions tailored to them. I think with that in mind, I think it has a huge potential to give back to the society, to transform education itself. Still, I see that people have created those online platforms, but those online platforms have become means of connecting the professor and the people. I think it has to go beyond that. It has to use things like generative AI, which has huge potential, especially for education, because in education, with respect to current affairs, the current affairs change every week, every month, every day. In education, you look at our textbooks which were printed 10 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, still we are reading them. So the life is not so fast in education, and that is where I think the generative AI and the impact of hallucination and impact of bias is can be controlled a lot. And I think generative AI can truly transform the education industry.
Great.
So, Amrit, you come from healthcare. I know you touched upon healthcare a little bit. Can you talk about some of the latest and new things which are happening, which can excite everybody here? What we can look forward to in terms of healthcare?
Yeah, so I mean, I had my own healthcare startup, which I sort of exited a few years ago. But at that time, we were working on doing virtual clinics. So for heart patients around the world who needed the aftercare and preventative care, we were creating virtual clinics for them. So this was access to a nurse or a doctor after they've had an episode, so for example a heart attack. What tended to happen before was you would have the event and then you'd wait 6 months or you're on a waiting list before a doctor or a nurse can talk to you and see you. But when you've had something like that happen in your life, you want somebody to hold your hand and help you along that journey. So you want access to someone 24/7 if there's an issue. So we were using health trackers and wearables to try and measure any changes that were happening, and this created alerts which would then notify a nurse or a doctor at the other end. So they'd be able to see before you've even called that something's changed in your readings, and then you've got instant access to them. It's very difficult to do, as you can imagine. It's a highly regulated industry, so it's not as straightforward as people think. I would love to have a nurse or a doctor to hand 24/7, but the reality at the moment is we're not there yet. But like I think somebody mentioned in the talk before, you've got the Google doctor and you've got ChatGPT. I recently had a health issue, and the first thing I did was Google my symptoms. And I looked into it and I was like, oh my god, yeah, it brought up a list of things, but actually one of them was quite serious, which then prompted me to call the doctor. And luckily I did, and I could have prevented something that could have been quite serious. However, even though I did contact the healthcare department, I was still given a bit of a runaround in terms of, okay, they think it might be this, they think it might be that, and I'd already diagnosed myself, and I was right. So, but the fact that I had to do that, and I kind of diagnosed myself and then pushed for the doctors to see me, ended up in A&E, but I prevented something that could have been quite fatal. So I mean, I think we're trying to get to that level. We're not there yet because there are regulatory issues. If you've got software as a medical device, you need certain licenses. It's not cheap to do. But I think with all the transformative tools that are out there, AI, it's going to, in one way, it's going to make everything more complicated because I'm sure everything's going to result in death at some stage. But also, we are going to be telling the doctors before they're telling us how things are happening and what's changing in you. But even with wearables, like I said, I had a monitor on my arm, and I absolutely loved it because I could see what different foods were doing to me at different times of the day. And that's helped me to change the way I'm eating or the way I'm sort of seeing food or changing my lifestyle overall. Without that graph that was telling me, my results have shot up or they've dipped low, I probably wouldn't do anything about it. Being really busy, running multiple businesses, we don't have time to focus on health. But these kind of devices, I think, are really helpful.
That's really exciting. So more informed decision making you can make because of the access to data you have about yourself. I mean, who's more important than you?
Exactly.
I think that's very exciting. And I think you touched upon NHS and how overloaded it is, right? I mean, finding access to doctor is so very difficult. So, I mean, it's a really great initiative where, you're handholding the people and giving them guidance and all. But let me touch upon one more example in India. The healthcare in India, simply because of the population and the doctor-to-patient ratio is not in a very good shape. If you have money, you have access to the best hospitals. For the underprivileged, it's very, very difficult. Now, there are a few initiatives, and again, great examples of digital transformation. There's an initiative called Ayushman Bharat and e-Sanjeevani. It's a whole ecosystem that the government of India has built, and it's really, difficult to believe that government of India is, like typical governments, is more about bureaucracy, more about diplomacy. But what they have built is truly amazing. During COVID, when the primary healthcare system was completely, out of whack, people did not have access to healthcare, especially the underprivileged and the people living in remote parts and the villages. And this system basically connected all the primary healthcare systems across the, India. There are, thousands of them, if not lakhs of them, hundreds of thousands probably across. They connected to the nodal centers, and then everything was on a digital platform. A poor patient walking into a, primary healthcare, which is a free facility, could get access to the best doctors possible through telemedicine. And that's a system they built and utilized during the COVID pandemic, where we had lockdowns in effect and all. So I think those are some really, really amazing use cases, and we are not done yet. There's another app called Practo in India, where people like you and me, even though we know something is wrong, we put it off, right? Nobody wants to see a doctor. And these apps can give you instant video consultation. That's very good. I mean, where you can talk to a professional immediately.
Yeah, and the point you raised about the NHS being overloaded at the moment, I think is correct. So, for example, I went to A&E and I waited 10 hours, and this was through the middle of the night. And I'm looking at the screen thinking, it's telling me how many patients are in A&E. It's telling me the average wait time, but I feel like nobody's doing anything about it. So I can see the data, but it's not helpful to me because I know I've got an issue, I'm in pain, and I need to see somebody immediately. I'm already in the A&E department, but there's not enough doctors to service the patients. So actually one of the things that came out of that, and I was speaking to my business partner, that we need to be able to have data that gives us real-time information. So one, we have the screen data that the hospital provides, but actually if I'm sitting in A&E, I can provide other people with a real-time, what exactly is happening, what the the average wait time is, how crowded the hospital is, and it kind of helps you. So I made my own way to the hospital, and so if I had a choice, if I could see which nearest hospital to me has the shortest waiting times, I would have gone straight there. And that's the kind of stuff I'm sort of hoping either to, run this as my own idea or work with somebody that has already started this. But yeah, those are the kind of changes that I think would really help, impact our lives. Okay, so I know you touched on generative AI. So can you give us some more information around, generative AI and digital transformation?
So another aspect of digital transformation is, like I said earlier, human centricity, hyper personalization. How Amazon knows when you go to the landing page what do you want to buy, right? How Netflix knows and recommends which show you should be watching. And I mean it's scary sometimes. They are right. What I want to watch. So that recommendation services and all, that's the traditional AI, right? Which has built so much of hyper personalization that Uber knows where we want to go, or Amazon knows what we want to buy, Netflix knows what we want to watch, and so on. And on top of that, with generative AI, I think the harms of AI aside, there's a huge potential to take that hyper personalization to the next level. See, look at the amount of data that is getting generated. Now your smartwatches and your wearables are getting smarter. The amount of data is going to just increase. It is not possible for humans to analyze this data, not possible. So again, I mean, there are a lot of questions that, AI is going to replace my job and so on, but in reality is that, without AI, it's difficult to sustain this level of life that we have become accustomed to. And generative AI takes it at a new level because it has the potential to generate. Traditional AI predicts that, what's going to happen next, what do you want to watch, what do you want to buy. Generative AI takes it to a new level where it takes all this information from the past about you, about what it has learned on Wikipedia and so on, and put it into a context. Make those chatbots much more personalized to you because they know about your data, they know about all this information, and they know how best to present it. They are great at communication. So, in essence, I think it is going to take digital transformation to the next level because it can bring in those super personalized experiences, and that's the promise of it, and that's the utility of it.
I think I was reading something where one of these, there was a lady I think in the US, and she had a miscarriage, but she kept on getting these ads for baby products, and she took the company to court because it's impacting her. She doesn't want to see these. She's going through a traumatic time in her life, and she's still seeing these products being advertised to her. She did eventually win the case, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff I think we just need to be careful of, that when we are looking at these kind of models, that it understands our current state, so if that ever happens, it's not still presenting us with the data that's based on the past. So yeah, I think that's a really important point. So in terms of, do you have any predictions in the digital transformation world?
If I had predictions, I would be sitting here today. I would be, founding another company like you did. But I think, the important thing is we have to differentiate for the businesses. We all represent businesses, across the globe here. We are leaders in the industry. Many people take digital transformation as, just take their stack, migrate it to cloud, slap on AI, and okay, they have digitally transformed. I think the distinction people have to make, the business leaders have to make, is digital transformation and technology transformation are two very different things. Yes, technology transformation is required in order to build the foundation to do the digital transformation, but I think the most important aspect is it is about business transformation through innovative use of technology rather than the other way around. Many of the leaders in the industry, they come and they say, oh, I want to move to cloud. But why? Why do you want to move to cloud? Fine, you moved all your applications to cloud, but are you generating any insights from it? Are you using those insights to serve your customers better? Are you building new experiences? I mean, all these great companies you look at, they succeeded because they brought something new. The technology transformation drove them to newer experiences. And that is where I think the businesses should focus on. Like I said earlier, they should also focus on ecosystem. The world is becoming so complex, we cannot do everything on our own. We cannot. We have to leverage, either you have to build or you have to buy. But life becomes easier if you are connected to an ecosystem with like-minded people serving similar kind of customers, where we can cross-leverage each other's experiences, each other's capabilities. So that is where that ecosystem becomes very, very important. And everybody who's thinking of digitally transforming themselves, their businesses, I think they have to look at this, that do they have this ecosystem? And final word I would say is we have to follow a design thinking approach, keeping the user at the center of the universe and build experiences around them instead of the other way around. We have to empathize with our customers, with our end users, not our direct customers only. Look at their problems, what they're trying to solve. I mean, Amazon today, yes, it started as a price point site, but very soon it evolved into a thing of convenience. How I can just click a button and get whatever I want instead of having to go to the market and looking at 20 different places. So it has become more of a convenience rather than cost advantage. I think those are some of the things that people should keep in mind when we are talking about digital transformation.
Any precautions when it comes to digital transformation?
Yeah, I think those I covered pretty much. That you have to keep a user-centric approach. You have to think about creating an ecosystem, either building or participating in it. And yeah.
Okay, great. So I think we're near the end of our fireside chat. So it would be great if you've got any questions, we could answer those before we finish off. Any questions? Okay. So I guess then, in terms of wrapping up, so we've talked about the way digital transformation, what it is, how it's impacting our daily lives, the future of digital transformation and what's to come, the changes and the experiences we're having already. So I think when it comes to sort of smartphones, smart cities, healthcare, education, AI tools, generative AI, they're all exciting areas, and as we've discussed, there are some precautions, there are things we need to keep in consideration, and the idea is not to lose that human touch, which I think will become so important with time to come. We're going to be so locked up in our own little worlds that we're going to be craving human interaction, and I think that's something we should start thinking about now.
Well summed up. Thank you.